Okay, welcome to this new day at Rexis in Bari. Just a very quick announcement. Remember to be at the closing for the lottery. During the day, we will put a jar or a bowl here on the stage where you can put your tickets, just in case, okay? And now it's my great pleasure to introduce the third invited speakers that we have here at Rexis. We have Munia Lalmas. Munia is a Senior Director of Research at Spotify and Head of Tech Research in Personalization at Spotify. She also holds honorary positions at University College London and the University of Amsterdam. Previously, she served as Director of Research at Yahoo, where she focused on advertising, quality, and user engagement, and held academic roles at the University of Glasgow and Queen Mary University of London. She's, with no doubt, a prominent figure in our research community, where she contributed with a lot of papers, a lot of actual new innovation in the field. So again, it is my great pleasure to have Munia here today talking about the power of AI recommender and search systems an industry perspective through the lens of Spotify. Please, Munia. Thank you.
Oops, sorry, it works. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the invitation. It is really a true honor to be giving a keynote at Rexis. Thank you for coming back. It was an amazing banquet. I think some of you stayed late. I'll do my best to make it worthwhile. So before I start, I just want to say that I will be presenting work that has been done at Spotify with many, many people in research, engineer, product, insight, and so on. And it is a true privilege for me to presenting the work of all my colleagues at Spotify. So, oops. A bit about the outline. I will start by setting the context. Then I will focus on 3 use cases, which will show approach that we have developed at Spotify. They are relevant to many other also industry. And hopefully what I will also show is the approach that we are using, developing, evolve also with the technology themselves evolving. I want also those 3 cases are going to showcase, are going to really show innovation that lead to tangible product impact. It means that it led to things that was shipped or contributing to something later that was also shipped. And finally, it is innovation. Those 3 use cases are examples that led to a publication at the Academic Research Conference. So let me start. Before, who has heard of Spotify? Who use Spotify? Lovely. Okay, it's going to be an easy talk now. Okay, let me start with setting the context. So I'm showing numbers. Those are numbers that we share on a quarterly basis. And the reason I show them is to show the scale. It is one app, but it has more than 600 million active users. We have various types of content, 100 million of music track, playlists, and so on. And the reason I show this is whatever the kind of innovation we're doing, research, and so on, it has to scale. It has to bring value and many other things. It's always quite good if you're in industry or if you're not industry to be reminded that things have to work in real. So the focus of the presentation will be personalization. And for us, personalization, we have on the one side, the listener that wants something. They want to be entertained. They want to maybe go to the gym, various kind of things. They want something. On the other side, we have the creator that making things. And us, personalization, is we try to connect what listener want to what creator create. It is at Spotify, and again, this is not so specific to Spotify. It's often the case also in other online or industry. But in our case, personalization is across 3 types of surfaces. It's the home, which is the standard things that everybody associates with recommendation. It is also in search. People do have need and come to Spotify to look for some content that they want to listen. And also, we call it is also respect to sets, like a playlist, a session, and so on. So personalization really works across all those 3 surfaces. It is also across verticals. Some people would refer to this as content type. Again, to make it like relevant to beyond Spotify, I will call it vertical. We have podcasts, we have music, we have audiobooks, and even within one vertical, there's various granularity. Music, we have playlists, we have album, we have tracks, and so on. So again, we have to do some personalization, taking into account those various verticals, and the content in those verticals are different into how user would consume them. So Spotify came in 2008, a lot of content, and I was not there yet. But what do we do with this content? How do we do recommendation? How do we ensure with all the content that we're having, it was just at that time with music, how do we give it to the best possible things to recommend this music to users? What we saw is actually the listener were organizing the content for Spotify. They were creating playlists. We have 4 billion of them. So they were putting music track often in a playlist with some sort of intent behind them. For example, they were going to listen to in one session and so on. So this kind of information becomes so extremely valuable and is really the foundation of a lot of the things that we're doing. We built a lot on top of it, but this is the foundation. So what we do is 2 tracks that appear in many, many playlists, there's a relationship between them. So we build this massive embedding space, word to vec. So the word is a track, and the sentence, it's a playlist. And this is really the foundation upon which a lot of the things we're doing is based on. So you can represent an artist as part of this embedding. You can represent a user based on the track they listen as part of this embedding. You can do clustering, similarity, and so on. Further setting up the context, and I think this is also important to be to be aware of, is when we talk about personalization, it's an assembly layer. Huge amount of content. Then there's a step of what we refer to content generation. We're going already to kind of shrink this content. It's a little bit doing recall that is likely to be good for the user. So we go from the full content to content generation. In our case, and in many other cases, we have verticals. So you will get some content generation as part of, with each of the vertical. Then the next step is a relevance ranking. You're going to kind of build some sort of ranking, mixing the vertical and so on. A technique that is often used, again, not just at Spotify, is that of calibration. A bit more podcast, a bit more this, less of this. It can be also personalized with respect to the user. Then we have the business logic. There's a new content vertical happening. We should just put this maybe a little bit up. There's seasonability and so on. So again, there's more work happening until there is what is actually shown to the user. Search is the same with a little bit of a difference and also the set. So always remember, it's like an assembly layer. So for the purpose now, I will be talking about within that, how do we represent the user? How do we handle vertical call start, and how we drive catalog discovery? And most of it is to help with respect to the candidate generation and a little bit in terms of relevance ranking. But before I start, I had to say that AI has been there for some time. So the title AI was in my talk. I just wanted to refresh everybody's mind. It didn't happen just recently. And just to think a little bit about the AI landscape, those are various definitions. I think most of us would agree. Technology that simulates human behavior, then you have the machine learning, then the deep learning, then the generative AI. So the kind of approach that I will be presented fits within the deep learning. And a little bit, some of the work I will be presenting is also starting to look into generative AI. OK. Let's just start. First, use case, representing the user. This is based on 2 papers published at Wisdom and one that is currently under review. If you're reviewing it, just give us some love. Please. I didn't say that, OK? OK, so what are we trying to do? Again, not specific to Spotify, but every online platform that is doing some sort of personalization, understanding user preferences is crucial for really good recommendation and good search. So what we wanted to do is how can we develop user representation that capture user in their journey and at the same time can be used across a lot of downstream tasks. And this will become clearer. So the first thing, again, not specific to Spotify. I've been in the area for a long time, how to represent users and this kind of thing. But we all know, in particular, so this work was in the context of music. The music taste reflect general interest. But they also reflect what I'm interested in now. Momentary preferences, seasonality, external events, and so on. So the idea, let's just try to separate those two. Let's try to have, OK, what do I really like in general, the type of music that I like, and what I am interested now. So the all-time listening, it tends to kind of move slowly, while the momentary listening pattern, usually a sequence, tend to move fast. So we decided, OK, let's try to find a hybrid architecture that allows to represent those 2 types of interests separately for a lot of scalability and so on and reason. And we use an autoencoder-based model where in one side we try to look at the sequence, and on the other side we take all the information we know about the user that has been aggregated, like demographic and so on. We did this for one downstream task, which is what the user is going to listen next. So a type of standard architecture, and so on. So you have the features, you represent that using a sequence model, you build the representation at the same time, so you have the sequence encoder and the regular encoder. And again, next stream prediction. Doing this, offline results, so it worked really well. They both needed to do a good job. Encoding the sequence we found is crucial. Again, this is not new. There's been work published that showed accounting for the sequence is important. For example, we tried to do like random sequence. The results are not as good. And also what we saw is with this technology, the user representation changed. So it kind of keeps the overall interest, but is moving after day 1 and after day 7 and so on. So this was our kind of, OK, it's a good direction. Everything at that time was offline. The next step is, again, as I explained, Spotify user use various surfaces. So how could we build those user representations that can be used across all surfaces and not trying to do one user representation for each, and also some of the downstream tasks, like discovery, personalized playlist, and so on. We wanted to do something that is scalable. So we wanted like rich, but compact representation of users that capture them in their journey. And something that was important, respect when we talk about journey, we wanted to do a better job with cold start user. We use similar type of architecture. So here, got much more into it. Remember the embedding space? We have a representation of the user in that embedding space. So we use a lot of modality encoder. We have also the audio information, so you can group track depending on the audio. So we have this various modality encoder. And then we have demographic context information. We also have, when users join the platform, they can select the kind of things that they want to listen and so on. For the modality encoder, we do that at like various time, I think week 1 month, and 6 months, and so on. So here, what we do, we build this kind of general user representation, taking all this information. For users that we don't have information because they're new in the platform, we use typical standard, which we take the aggregate of all we have about all the users and so on. So we build those user representation, and then we use transfer learning to adapt those user representation for the various tasks. So again, technology is evolving, transfer learning is something that is quite used, and so on. What we saw here is, and this is really good, not just for Spotify, it's like if you have a new user, the best job you can do, the more likely they will stay on the platform. So 5% improvement for cold start, next stream prediction within 4 hours of joining the platform. And some of the results, downstream test result. Remember, I talk about candidate generation, I talk about search. Those are metrics that we're measuring. They're not important for the purpose of this presentation as long as they're positive, and they're positive. And so those user representation, then using fine-tuning, transfer learning, really build better representation that work for those tasks. In the paper, we have also a lot of information about how it works at scale. There's batch management, there's versions, and so on. But an interesting result is we had 50% improvement over operation and storage cost. So that's the first thing. So again, the technology evolved. Transfer learning, auto-encoder, and so on. The second one, which is a cold start problem, but a vertical cold start problem. Online platform often introduce verticals. And there will be, this work has been presented at 2 conferences, Sigara in 2020, and recently at the Web Conference this year. So, online platform frequently add new content vertical. So what we were asking is how can we develop representation that enable effective recommendation during the cold start phase. Let's start with podcast. So podcast was introduced in 2019. It's put on the platform. Some people interact with it, but there's not a lot of consumption data. We have a lot of consumption data with respect to user interacting with music. So we decided, let's just use this information. Let's just use what we know about the user in terms of their preferences in music taste and so on. And again, the kind of technology that we use is domain adaptation, transfer learning, and so on. We didn't want to decide which kind of representation we should do, so we use, of course, the embedding that I presented earlier. This work was done before we did this kind of generalized user representation. We have information about the genre, what the user like to listen. We have a lot of kind of a metadata. And we know the kind of a top artist of user. So we decided to take all those kind of information. Some come into what we call sparse feature, like genre, artist, demographic, and some into the dense feature embedding. And we use a multi-layer perceptron because we wanted to be able to put all those features together. The sparse feature, we did the end-to-end learning, the dense feature through memorization. We decided to do what is called an extreme multi-class classification. We do have podcasts, we do have users, so there are a little bit of interaction data. We decided to take follow. A user decides to follow a podcast with the idea that they're likely to listen to it later. There's much more detail in the paper to make this scalable, about negative sampling and so on. So what we do is we build user representation based on user music taste that predict which podcast they're going to follow. And this leads to both increased stream rate by 50%. It's a big one. There was not much personalization before. Okay, so, and new podcasts follow by 54%, which is really, really good. We're introducing a new vertical, and more people, oh, I'm going to try this. And ablation study and so on. What seems to work a lot is the 100 favorite artists was best indicator of podcast interest and also demographic. It works surprisingly well. We were happy. It's been in production since June 2019, and is still used as a podcast representation for the purpose of podcast recommendation. The next one is audiobooks. Audiobook was introduced in 2023. Again, the same thing. There's a bit of interaction, not a huge amount. This time we decide, okay, audiobook we have podcasts now. By then, we have quite a lot of interaction with respect to user consuming podcast. We also look at the data, and we show that users with similar audiobook preferences tend to have more in common when it comes to podcast preferences than if we choose user at random. So there's something happening there. User, like this notion of, okay, you listen to this podcast, you listen to this audiobook. So we think of using what is called a co-listening information. There's also then a lot of transformers, LLM, and so on. We're doing quite a good job at building good representation of content and so on. So we have description of what an audiobook is about and what a podcast is about. So we also, okay, let's just do some content-based representation for the purpose of recommendation. So, and then we have graph neural network that was getting better and better. So we decided to use GNN graph neural network. We built a graph of co-listening. So audiobook, if a user listens to an audiobook and another audiobook, we have this information. We have information about user listening to audiobook and podcast and so on. We use large language model to extract a representation of audiobook and podcast based on title and description. So many of you have seen quite some paper on using graph learning. So what we have, the nodes, its own representation, and a node that is connected to others. So we build better representation of those nodes based on surrounding nodes and so on. And we do that by using message passing technology. So this was tested online. So the GNN built a representation of the audiobook. There was no user information. There's the co-listening information, but no user information, no user being a node. The 600 million of users doesn't scale. So we used two-tower model. There's been quite some presentation using two-tower model where we have the user representation with various things that can be used, and then we have the audiobook representation. And then we train the two-tower model because we do have a little bit of interaction. This led to, we were happy, 23% increase in audiobook stream rate, but also people starting to listen to audiobook. So this has been in production since July 2023, and is also now using for podcast. Who use audiobook? Who listen to audiobook? One. Okay. Look into it. It's really good. And so on. Okay. So this work, in the paper, there's a lot of information about how we made it scalable. We work really closely with engineer and so on. There's a lot of things, but graph neural network does not scale and this kind of thing. If you just take it the way it is, it's not going to work. But this is also why we went to the two-tower models and so on. Okay. The third part is driving catalog discovery. This is based on 3 papers. One of it was actually presented as part of the industry track as a poster this year. So any question about this, you can ask those people. They're also sitting here. Okay, so what this is about. So online platform, catalog growth. Even when they don't grow, it is quite known, and again, this is not specific to Spotify, that people sometimes don't know how to express what they're looking for. So this is really going into the domain of search. And also, they're not even aware of what is all available, and so on. This is not a new problem. If you've been working in search or information retrieval, it's been always like a topic in that area. So the question for us is, how can we help user explore the full breadth and depth of our catalog? So, in search, a way to help user explore further is through related queries. You try to find, okay, that's your query. I'm going to show maybe other query that is going to help you explore further, or is going to help you maybe understanding a better query reformulation, and so on. We use various methods for it, and query logs, so you have information from one query to the others, and so on. Specific to Spotify, the way the search works is instant. A link to that successful query. That successful query is related to something that has been clicked. So we can take information like the title and so on, about and so on. There's genre information and many other things. We have this for podcasts, we have this for music and so on. So again, not surprisingly, we're building relationship, connecting things. Is also connected to various entities. And this is an example of what I explained. And what we use there, again, graph learning, we use Node2Vec because it kind of does a good job to capture this, is also scalable, and so on. And here the task is a link prediction. So more or less from the query, how can I find the one that is going to lead to the success, and so on. And exploratory query suggestion, I identified finding the nearest neighbor. So we represent queries on this query space. So then when you have a new query, you just map it into that query space and so on, and you look at what is closed. And this is done using a Node2Vec. So adding graph learning query suggestion really leads to a lot of improvement in online result coverage. We found more queries to which we could do query suggestion. Engagement, there was more click on those query suggestions. And we have also a really good increase on exploratory search. We have in-house metrics that say, okay, this was an exploratory search. Again, it's been used in many other places, is when for a query you get different type of click. It means you can satisfy these queries in many ways, and so on. That's one of the measures we're using, and we're using more. So this is the online test, and what this work led to is what has been actually rolled out and was presented I think on Tuesday, as part of the industry, exploratory query recommendation is being launched for mobile user and resulted in a 9% increase in exploration query, and the fact that also the length of the query has gone longer, which is often a problem in the context of search engine. So this was good, but it's not finished. The reason is because we were starting with those query logs. There are still queries that are entered into the search. Previous work have shown that there's kind of a spectrum of intent. You have the very narrow intent to the broad intent. Again, not specific to Spotify. If you have worked in information retrieval, this is quite well known. This work was really looking more into the type of intent in the context of Spotify. What is also happening is you have way more narrow intent query than broad intent query. And we really wanted to see, okay, broad intent query, this is likely where there's going to be much more exploration. Can we kind of go further? And this is where we use LLM. There's been some presentation of in the conference using LLM to generate data, synthetic data. And I think, I don't know, I find this quite neat. You have to think really about how you put the things together. So let me try to explain. You have entities, the podcast, audiobook, music. So you can serialize this entity. Entity will have a title, description, and so on. So you can say, okay, things that appear in a title is likely to be a very good query with narrow intent to retrieve that entity. Things that are in a description, is a bit more verbose, and so on, you can try to extract some phrases out of it, and they're likely to be good query with a broad intent to retrieve that entity. There's much more we do into it, trying to, account for spelling, various version of a words, and this kind of thing, using not every phrase in the description are good. We use techniques like IDF, trying to find the good one out of it. So what this does is, for each item, you have derived queries with the intent associated with it. This is what is often referred as weak labeling. We don't just do that. We use also query logs. So again, you have a query. There's been a click. You look at what has been clicked. If the title of it is very close to the query, you say, OK, this is a narrow intent query. If it's not, it's a broad intent query, and so on. So we have this data set that we created, and with a entity, a variable, the intent, and the output is a query. So then we just use LLM, actually, based on this data set, to teach the LLM to generate synthetic query. okay, this is an entity, generate me some query with broad intent, generate me some query with a narrow intent. Offline result indicate that this works well in two scenarios. One is synthetic query suggestion, and the other one is adapting the retrieval model, and so on. Query suggestion, what you have is just, okay, you use that to actually decide which query to suggest, and then you can play a little bit more of the broad intent, more of the narrow intent, and so on. The retrieval model, you can feed back the entity with those queries that you have generated, and this helps those entities being kind of returned, and so on, while before it was not possible. So this work was done offline, but a similar approach has been used for audiobook to help people discover audiobook. This is in the context of search. It is deployed now, and it has results in both increase in clicks on exploratory query and in clicks on search result page. Okay, so that's the last use case. So I want to spend, I have 5 minutes, yeah. 5 minutes looking ahead. But first, let me recap. 3 use cases that highlight how AI has driven innovation at Spotify, including academic research. Those use cases representing the user, solving the vertical call start, and driving catalog discovery are not specific to Spotify. What we have done is take into account scalability, does it work, where the technology is, adapted for our case, and so on. And we continue to do that. What I think is next, this is my view, is not exhaustive. It changed a little bit depending on what I'm seeing, and so on. So it also relates to what we think we are going to do, and already what we're doing at Spotify. So representing the user, we can do more. We can enrich the representation. So for example, the deployed generalized user representation does not have the sequence in coding. And now with the transformer-based sequence models, we can do a very good job. When we did this work, we used LTSM or one of those and this kind of things. So I think sequence is going to be very big, and there's been 2 sessions of sequence, and there's been also some paper in industry looking into this for the context of generative recommendation, and so on. Other thing is also representing the user is about, okay, and there was a presentation actually from Spotify, interaction in search, interaction in the home, and this kind of things, so how to bring them all together to really enrich the representation. Solving the catalog call start, this is super important. Of course, you have the call start problem, and there's still a lot of research happening, but the catalog call start is more or less you introduce a vertical, the success of the vertical is going to depend on how you do this. What we have found out is when you build representation for the catalog call start, those representations are still useful afterwards. We continue using those representations in addition to other representations to do better recommendation. Even the catalog call start phase has kind of, we're further away from it. What we're trying to look is, we did something for podcasts, we did something for audiobook, and so on. We're trying to look, it's like, can we build generalized representation to go, okay, it's just a vertical, we have several verticals, and we're looking into the role of multimodality, major advance in multimodality. We've seen some presentation here, and so on. And finally, driving the vertical discovery. So this is one of the application we're having is there is a region we have in it, but there's other thing. It's like, okay, how can we help user doing that? And this is a whole area with the notion of agent, which we heard also here. Some of those, how can I help the user doing it? There's quite a lot of work happening. We can use LLM for this, but view it as more like an agentic LLM. And one of the big things is how do we kind of make it work together? It's not like things going separate and so on. And this is an area that has been referred to orchestration. And thank you.
Thank you very much for this very interesting industrial point of view on the problem of recommendation and search. We have time for just one question. So the question is on Slido by Andrea Barraza. So how does Spotify address decision-making considering multiple types of metrics like fairness, sometimes with trade-offs for fast decision-making at scale?
We have amazing product managers that make sure that we do a good job. What I present is the algorithm. What often happens is before it's deployed, there's dashboard and no, this is not okay, this is not okay, this is, and this kind of thing. And we constantly reevaluate this and so on. Some of the algorithms try to address this. I didn't present that, but how to have more diverse recommendation and all those kind of things. But this would be another talk.
Okay, you know, by looking at the timer, apparently we have more times. More time. You know, there is another question. Do you use any real-time inference recommendation features to capture the user's, sorry, I cannot read anymore. The user's in-session intent, or is everything pre-computed and batch processed?
Okay, so again, what I presented is building representation that can be used, but we have a lot of work that is especially within the session, user react to something and how to kind of modify and so on. And we've been presenting work using kind of reinforcement learning for this and so on.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is by Joe Constant. You had great success in transfer learning. How much is this due to simply discovering user demographics and content creators targeting specific demographics?
Sorry?
So, yeah.
I don't have my glasses, so I can't read.
Okay, so you know, you talked about transfer learning. So how much is this transfer learning due to you're just discovering using demographics, you know, or content creators targeting the specific?
No, so we can move from like the personalization. We have a content representation. We have a user representation. And in particular, in that work was about how do we recommend podcasts for users that never listen to a podcast. So that's what we try to address. Now with the whole podcast recommendation, again, we have various metrics, how to ensure that it's like a diverse recommendation and so on. It is another problem. This one was specifically to do recommendation of podcasts during the call stage. We still use that representation now, but it's not the only representation we're using for podcast recommendation.
Okay, and I have a very final question. So you talked about podcasts and audiobooks, and you saw that you know, in your talk we heard that you are using just a title and the description of the podcast and of the audiobook. But you know, I see that in a podcast and in an audiobook there is a lot of text. So have you tried to use also this text? It is worth using also this text to improve the results of your algorithms?
Yeah, so we have the transcript In some cases, we use it and so on. I think what we found is maybe it does not add so much more, and so on.
Okay. So thank you very much. We thank Munia once more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I go?